On a bitterly cold, snowy night in a bustling city, two complete strangers meet under the harsh glow of a lonely bus stop. One simple act of kindness, a man offering his jacket to a freezing, hopeless woman, sets off an incredible chain of events neither could ever imagine. Years later, with their lives drastically changed, destiny brings them back together in the most unexpected way. But what unfolds when their paths cross again will prove one thing above all. Kindness is never forgotten, and it often returns to you when you least expect it. Subscribe and post in the comments where are you watching from. In the lingering quiet after Michael's kind gesture, the cold nothingness of the bus stop began to fill with the sound of two tentative voices. The wind still screamed outside, but in that small circle of shared warmth, a conversation slowly sparked to life. Michael stepped a little closer, mindful of the shivering figure before him, and softly asked, "Do you mind if I sit with you for a while?" His tone was gentle and unassuming, as if the very act of conversation could, in some small way, offer more comfort than any garment ever could. Emily, still wrapping the offered jacket around her trembling shoulders, managed a shy nod. Her eyes, still glistening with the remnants of unshed tears from earlier, now reflected a cautious curiosity. I don't usually have anyone to talk to on nights like this," she admitted in a voice barely louder than the winter wind. "I've been waiting here for the bus, trying to keep warm, and I haven't had much luck lately." Michael settled onto the cold concrete bench beside her, the two of them sharing a temporary refuge from the biting chill. As they sat side by side, the contrast between their worlds became evident through their soft-spoken words. Emily began with hesitant words, her voice filled with both sorrow and a resilient determination. "I work so hard every day," she confided. "It's a small job that barely pays enough. I do odd tasks to make ends meet, but it's never enough. I spend my evenings waiting, hoping to catch a break. But most days, it feels like the cold is the only constant companion." Her words painted a picture of long, isolating hours, of dreams set aside to survive, and of a life spent chasing the warmth of a future that always seemed just beyond reach. Michael listened intently, his eyes softening with each admission. When Emily paused, gathering the courage to continue, he offered a quiet smile that carried both empathy and a depth of understanding born from his own struggles. "It sounds incredibly hard," Michael said after a thoughtful silence. "I know what it's like to feel alone in the cold. My life isn't much different. I live in a small apartment and work long hours just to keep a roof over my head. But there's something I've been dealing with that makes it even harder. I have an older son who is very ill. He needs treatment and the medical bills are overwhelming. They're asking for $50,000 for the therapy he so desperately needs. It feels like no matter how hard I try, the weight of that cost is always there, growing heavier with each passing day." A hush fell between them as Michael's words hung in the frigid air, mingling with the soft whispers of falling snow. For a moment, the two strangers, bound together by hardship on that cold night, shared the intimacy of their burdens. Emily's eyes widened in empathetic surprise, her heart swelling with sorrow, not only for herself but now for this man whose own dreams hovered on the edge of despair. "I'm so sorry," she managed, her voice frail yet sincere. "It sounds like life has been exceptionally cruel to you as well." Michael's gaze drifted downward as if seeking strength in the fading light. "It has been," he admitted. "But sometimes, even in the darkest times, there's a small spark, a moment of unexpected kindness, that reminds me why I keep going." His words resonated deeply, echoing the sentiment that even the faintest light could guide one through the bleakest winter. Their conversation wove through the shared threads of struggle and the fragile hope that lingered between them. Emily described her daily battles, the endless routine of a job that drained her, the lonely nights under starlit skies at bus stops, and the constant battle with the biting cold that mirrored her internal desolation. Michael, in turn, recalled the quiet desperation of his long shifts at work and the heavy worry over his son's condition, a worry made worse by the looming financial burden he could scarcely imagine shouldering alone. As the minutes passed, the approaching sound of an engine signaled the return of the bus. Its distant rumble grew louder, a reminder that routine was once again intruding upon their brief respite from life's harsh realities. Emily's face, once animated with reluctant hope as she spoke of her struggles, now betrayed a resigned melancholy at the thought of parting company from this kind stranger, who had so unexpectedly shared his own vulnerable truths. Rising slowly, she gathered her few belongings, a worn backpack and the jacket Michael had given her, and looked up at him with gratitude that shone through her weary eyes. "Thank you, Michael," she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the wind. "Thank you for the jacket and thank you for listening." With a final, lingering look that spoke of shared sorrow and unspoken understanding, Emily stepped onto the bus as it pulled up with a hiss of brakes and the jolt of its arrival. Michael watched her board, his heart heavy with the weight of their exchanged confessions. When the bus doors slid shut with a soft hiss, the quiet moment between them evaporated like the last breaths of a winter chill. After Emily was gone, Michael lingered a moment longer at the stop, his eyes fixed on the spot where she had sat. Then, with a deep sigh that mingled with the night's cold, he made his way to his car parked a short distance away and drove off slowly, the lights of the vehicle cutting through the snowy darkness as he returned home, each mile a silent testament to a night that had promised both hardship and the rare, delicate warmth of connection. Several years had passed since that fateful winter night at the bus stop, a night when a simple act of kindness had sparked a tiny glimmer of hope in Emily Reed's otherwise bleak existence. The bitter cold of that day, the harsh winds, and the shared sorrow with Michael were slowly becoming memories, yet they continued to echo in her heart as a reminder of where she had come from. Time, however, had a way of transforming pain into perseverance. Emily, once lost in the relentless grip of poverty and loneliness, began to forge a new path for herself. With the determination that had kept her alive on those long, freezing nights, she learned not just to survive, but to thrive. Bit by bit, she started to save again, dedicating herself with a focus that bordered on single-mindedness. Every setback she had faced became fuel for her ambition, every cold night a lesson in resilience and self-reliance. After overcoming innumerable obstacles, Emily made the bold decision to pursue her long-held passion for travel and connecting people with the world. She began by handling small bookings and planning local tours, gradually building up a modest clientele who were drawn not only to her sharp business sense, but also to the empathetic warmth that shone through her every interaction. Over time, her innovative ideas began to take wing. She rebranded her venture as Wanderlust Journeys, a travel agency built on the promise of personalized experiences and heartfelt customer service. With an unyielding work ethic, Emily nurtured her fledgling business with grit and grace. Lunchtimes were spent poring over meticulous plans, evenings dedicated to crafting itineraries, and weekends filled with client consultations. Every dollar earned was reinvested into the business, each small success adding to her strength and determination. Slowly but steadily, her efforts began to bear fruit. What started as a modest agency quickly evolved into a thriving enterprise. Soon, Wanderlust Journeys began attracting a diverse clientele, locals who had discovered hidden gems in their own backyard, as well as international travelers eager to experience unique adventures. In a dramatic turn that felt almost cinematic, Emily's monthly income soared past the $100,000 mark, a staggering transformation from those cold, lonely nights she once spent on a bus stop bench. The success was more than just financial. It was a profound personal victory. Emily had not only created a flourishing business, but she had also unlocked the door to a future defined by hope, opportunity, and the unshakable belief that even the direst circumstances could be overcome with enough determination. Despite her remarkable transformation, there were moments when Emily's mind wandered back to that freezing winter evening. In the quiet solitude of her upscale office, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of a city that no longer seemed as cold and indifferent as it once had, she would stare out into the twilight. The vivid memories of biting winds, the crunch of fresh snow underfoot, and the faint sound of a distant bus would resurface. In those moments, a bittersweet nostalgia would fill her heart. She remembered the way her teeth chattered in the cold, the loneliness of that long night, and most of all, the kindness of a stranger that had quietly altered the course of her life. That memory was both a source of pain and a wellspring of strength. It reminded her that every step she had taken since that night was built upon the foundation of compassion and perseverance. Emily's journey from darkness to light was a testament to the idea that one can always rise above, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Her newfound success was not just a personal triumph. It was also an embodiment of the power of empathy and the impact of a single, selfless act of kindness. As her travel agency continued to flourish, Emily dedicated herself to giving back to the community that had unknowingly helped shape her destiny. She established scholarship funds for underprivileged youth and partnered with local organizations to ensure that others, too, might have the chance to rebuild their lives. Every business meeting, every client call, and every travel itinerary was infused with a quiet purpose: to honor the memory of that cold night and to transform hardship into an enduring message of hope. In the soft glow of early morning light filtering through her office window, Emily often smiled quietly to herself. The journey had been arduous, the pain real, and the nights long, but she had finally arrived at a place where hope, resilience, and success coexisted. The transformative power of determination was clear in every corner of her life, from the thriving business that now boasted its success across social media and local news, to the personal peace she had finally discovered after years of struggle. That night, after a long day of board meetings and planning sessions at Wanderlust Journeys, Emily's mind was finally able to quiet down enough for sleep. In the stillness of her new, elegantly furnished bedroom, the soft hum of the city outside faded into the background as she drifted into a deep, almost surreal slumber. What followed was a dream so vivid and emotionally charged that it blurred the line between memory and imagination. In her dream, she found herself back on that desolate bus stop on a bitter winter night. The biting cold was palpable, and the relentless snow swirled around her just as it had on that fateful evening. The surroundings were almost identical: the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, the lonely bench beneath the shelter, and the raw, unfiltered atmosphere of isolation. But amid the overwhelming chill, one figure stood out amid the white and gray: Michael. In the dream, Michael's presence was like a beacon of warmth. She saw him approaching slowly, his breath visibly escaping in soft puffs against the frozen air. Every detail of his face was illuminated, his kind eyes reflecting genuine concern, his furrowed brow softened by empathy, and his gentle smile that had managed to cut through the harshness of that night. His voice, clear and comforting, reached her ears with words of quiet compassion. "Sometimes, a small act of kindness can light up the darkest night," he said, and though his voice was calm, it resonated with a profound strength that seemed to carry the promise of hope. The dream was punctuated by the sounds and sensations of that long-ago moment: the distant roar of an approaching bus, the crunch of snow underfoot, even the faint echo of Michael's footsteps on the cold pavement. Every sensory detail was amplified, leaving Emily with the vivid memory of how that encounter had ultimately altered her life. As the scene unfurled, she was overwhelmed by the emotions it stirred. The nostalgia for that bleak, desperate time mingled with a deep, abiding gratitude for the kindness that had given her a new lease on life. When she awoke, the early morning light spilled softly through the window, and for a few heartbeats, Emily lay completely still. The remnants of the dream clung to her like the last traces of a fading snowflake, fragile and precious. She could still hear Michael's gentle voice and see the warm expression on his face. The dream stirred something inside her, an undeniable calling that she must find him, to thank him for the kindness that had not only saved her from a cold, lonely night, but had set her on a path to success and happiness. With her heart pounding in her chest, Emily sat up in bed and retraced the vivid details of the dream in her mind. Every element, from the way Michael had looked at her to his softly spoken words of encouragement, felt intensely real. It was as if the dream had served as a gentle reminder of a promise she had almost forgotten. A promise that kindness, once given, never truly vanishes but echoes throughout the rest of one's life. Determined, she got dressed quickly in fresh, warm clothing, this time far superior to the threadbare garments of her past, and grabbed her phone. The dream had ignited a resolute fire within her. She knew that she owed Michael a debt of gratitude that far exceeded any monetary measure. Without hesitation, she scrolled through old messages and photos stored on her phone, searching for anything that might help her recall more details about that night and the kind stranger who had offered his jacket in such a selfless act. Though details from that rainy-like memory might have faded with time, the essence of Michael's compassion remained clear and unwavering in her heart. The urgency to reconnect with him was overwhelming. The dream had not only rekindled the memory of his kindness, but had also reinforced the belief that the warmth of a caring soul could change the trajectory of a life. Emily felt that it was now time to bridge the gap between the past and her present reality. Every success, every milestone she had achieved in her journey, from the long, painful nights at the bus stop to the triumphs of running a flourishing business, was interwoven with that singular moment of empathy. And so, without a second thought, she resolved to track down Michael. She didn't yet know how or where he might be found, but the burning desire to repay him spurred her into action. As the morning advanced, Emily sat at her desk, her mind whirring with plans and possibilities. She made a list of potential places where he might live or work, starting with memories of areas near that now distant bus stop. With every jot of a pen on a notebook, she felt as though she was piecing together a map, a path leading back to the one person who had once helped her amid the cold and despair. The dream, so tender and urgent, had provided her with something invaluable: the clarity and motivation to not let a good deed be forgotten. It was a powerful reminder that in the tapestry of life, every singular act of kindness unravels into countless threads of hope. And as she gazed out the window at the slowly brightening sky, Emily knew that the time had come to seek out Michael and honor the kindness that had, in its quiet way, transformed her world forever. On a frigid winter evening that seemed to echo the past, Emily set out with a determined heart along the familiar streets that had once borne witness to her struggles. The chilly air, heavy with flurries of snow, seemed to murmur memories of that long-ago night at the bus stop, a night that had irrevocably altered her life. Dressed in warm, carefully chosen layers that now spoke of confidence and success rather than desperation, she arrived at the same bus stop where fate had intertwined her path with Michael's. The bus shelter, still marked by frost and the lingering glow of a flickering street lamp, stood as a silent monument to countless winters before this moment. Tonight, however, it was imbued with anticipation as Emily anxiously scanned the street for any sign of the man whose kindness had once offered her refuge from the cold. As the hands of time continued to move forward, the distant sound of footsteps drew near. Michael emerged from his workplace, his coat buttoned up tightly, bearing the weariness of an end-of-shift routine. He walked through the snowy dusk with a measured pace, his eyes reflecting a world of responsibility and quiet struggle. For a fleeting moment, as he passed the familiar shelter, a glance from Emily, steady, warm, and filled with gratitude, stopped him in his tracks. In that instant, though years had passed, the memory of a tender kindness began to stir in him. Yet, as Michael looked up, he hesitated. The young woman before him was no longer the fragile soul he once encountered on that bitter night. Instead, she now radiated an unshakable confidence, her posture upright and her gaze deliberate, illuminated by the fierce glow of someone who had forged her own path out of hardship. "Michael!" Emily called out, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The sound carried across the crisp night air, catching him off guard. Michael paused, uncertain for a heartbeat, as he tried to reconcile the woman standing there with the memory of the young, shivering girl from years past. "I'm sorry," he murmured, a note of confusion lacing his tone as he addressed the stranger before him. "Do I know you?" His words were gentle yet laced with genuine curiosity. Yet as Emily stepped forward, the layers of her transformation, her polished attire, the spark in her eyes, and the quiet dignity in her smile, spoke volumes. With each determined step toward him, she reached out, her hand extended in a warm greeting that transcended time. "I'm Emily," she said softly, her voice steady as she recalled the bond they had unknowingly shared. "We met on a cold night, long ago, when you offered me your jacket. I haven't forgotten that kindness, Michael." Her words, simple yet laden with years of gratitude and growth, struck him profoundly. Michael's eyes widened as the fragments of memory began to coalesce. The harsh winter, the shivering figure at the bus stop, the warmth of an offered coat that had lit his heart in a hopeless moment. Slowly, recognition flickered in his gaze. "Emily, is it really you?" he asked, his tone now swelling with shock and emotion. The transformation was unmistakable. Before him stood a woman who had not only overcome insurmountable odds but had flourished in spite of them. Their reunion unfolded beneath the watchful gaze of the winter night. The chill, once a harbinger of isolation, now seemed to soften as the warmth between them grew. The street, the bus stop, and even the softly falling snow bore witness to the extraordinary journey that had brought them from a shared moment of vulnerability to this powerful encounter. In that surreal, almost cinematic moment, Michael found himself grappling with the realization that the girl he had helped so many years ago was now a symbol of resilience, a living testament to the ripple effects of one's selfless act. As they spoke, voices hushed by both the cold and the emotion of their reunion, the past and present merged seamlessly. Michael listened intently as Emily recounted her arduous journey from hardship to triumph. Her struggles, her early days of hardship, and the blossoming of a dream into the successful travel agency that now sustained her. Every word reinforced a mutual understanding, one that transcended the passage of time. In return, Michael's quiet confessions of ongoing challenges revealed that even though time had softened some of his scars, he continued to fight personal battles, especially that of raising his ailing son, a burden he had yet to fully overcome. In that tender exchange, the familiar winter air bore witness to the transformation of two lives, forever connected by a single, life-altering act of kindness. Their reunion was no mere chance encounter. It was purposeful, a reawakening of gratitude and the desire to heal old wounds with new hope. The night seemed to breathe a promise that compassion, even when extended years ago, had the power to change destinies and unite hearts across the vast expanse of time and hardship. In the gentle glow of streetlights that still pierced the lingering winter dusk, Emily and Michael stepped aside from the bustle of the city. They found a quiet bench outside a closed cafe, where the silence of falling snow and the distant hum of traffic provided a private sanctuary for hearts to speak freely. With the chill of the night now softened by their recent reunion, Emily's eyes shone with a calm determination as she began to recount the story that had forever bound them together. "I remember that night as if it were yesterday," Emily said softly, her voice steady despite the resonance of memories. "I was freezing at the bus stop, alone and desperate. You, without a second thought, offered your jacket to keep me warm. That single act of kindness, so spontaneous and selfless, lit a spark in me. It showed me that even in the harshest moments, a caring heart can make a difference." Michael's eyes widened as he listened, his own memories of that bitter, lonely night intertwining with the present. There was a tremor in his voice when he admitted, "I never forgot that moment either. I think about it every time I see my son struggle. Even now, all these years later, I haven't been able to raise enough money for his treatment. The bills, the endless worry, they continue to hang over us like an unyielding winter." The simple admission echoed in the quiet space between them. Michael's words, heavy with lingering pain, revealed that his hope for a cure still remained out of reach. His older son's illness had drained not only their finances but also the spirit that Michael fought to keep alive for his child's sake. Each day brought new challenges, and the cold reality of an unresolved medical crisis had remained a constant in his life. Moved by his honesty and the vulnerability that lay behind his tired eyes, Emily reached out and placed a warm hand on his arm. "Michael," she murmured, the emotion in her voice resonating with the sincerity of her words. "Kindness never fades. It has a magical way of returning to us in ways we could never imagine. I believe that kindness, when given freely and from the heart, has the power to heal wounds and reshape destinies." A silence fell between them for a heartbeat, a silence heavy with meaning and possibility. Then, with a quiet resolve that had been building deep within her since that life-changing night, Emily continued, "I want to help you, Michael. I want to be the one who pays forward the kindness you showed me when I needed it most. Let me cover the full cost of your son's treatment." Her words, tender yet resolute, seemed to hang in the air like a promise. For a long moment, Michael stared at her in utter disbelief. His gaze shifted slowly from her determined face to the snow-covered pavement, as if trying to reconcile the incredible generosity before him with his own long-held struggles. Finally, his voice, thick with emotion, spluttered, I can't believe this. Are you sure? I've never asked for anything like this." Emily smiled, a gentle, reassuring light that brightened even the shadow-lined corners of his worry. "I'm absolutely sure. Kindness always returns, Michael, if it's done from the purest part of the heart. You once saved me from a night that felt endless, and now it's my turn to help you. Let me take care of your son's treatment. No amount is too high when it comes to paying back the debt of compassion." The impact of her words seemed to wash over Michael in a surge of emotion. His eyes began to glisten with tears. Tears not just of relief but of joy, gratitude, and an overwhelming sense of redemption. In that moment, the burdens he had carried for so long felt a little lighter, as if the kindness that had transformed Emily's life was now healing his own wounded spirit. "Thank you," he whispered, voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and elation. "Thank you so much. You've given me hope again." As the quiet snowfall continued around them, the two sat together, united in an understanding that transcended words. They recognized that some gestures are not mere transactions but sacred exchanges of humanity, where the goodness extended to another can ripple outward and enrich countless lives. In that profound silence, filled with the promise of a better future, Emily reaffirmed gently, "You see, Michael, kindness always returns in a way we can't even foresee." With those words, the bitter cold of their shared past seemed to melt away, replaced by the warmth of a hope reborn, a future where compassion and generosity were the currencies that truly mattered. In the soft glow of a promising afternoon, after the quiet promise of repayment had been made on that wintry night, Emily sat down with Michael once more to share one final gift, a gesture meant to cement the lasting transformation that had woven their lives together. Over steaming cups of coffee in a modest, sunlit cafe, Emily delicately broached the subject. "Michael," she began, her voice gentle but unwavering, "there's something more I wish to offer you and your family." Her eyes shone with the sincere radiance of someone who had known hardship and then experienced unmerited generosity firsthand. Michael's gaze faltered for a moment. His thoughts swirled with the weight of years filled with barely meeting ends. Every day had been marked by struggle, every night by whispered prayers for something better for his ailing son and the rest of his family. "Emily, I can't accept any further favors," he murmured, his tone a mix of hesitant gratitude and deep-seated pride. Yet, Emily's insistence was both tender and resolute. "Please, Michael," she pressed softly, "this isn't charity. It's my way of saying thank you for that night so long ago. I believe that when we help each other, we change the world one life at a time. I want you and your family to have a place that feels like home, a spacious apartment where you can all start anew." The proposal, as unexpected as it was overwhelming, filled the space between them with electric hope. Michael's eyes stung, and for several long seconds he remained silent. Then, with a slow shaking of his head as if to cast aside his ingrained reservations, he replied, "I'm not sure I deserve this. My pride tells me I should manage on my own." But Emily, with a soft smile that mirrored her own journey from despair to success, reached out to cover his hand with hers. "Sometimes, Michael, we must allow goodness to enter our lives even when we think we can do it all alone," she said. "You once gave me something priceless, a warmth that reawakened my will to live. Let me give you back that kindness." Convinced by her heartfelt words and the earnest glimmer in her eyes, Michael finally relented. In the days that followed, arrangements were swiftly made for a spacious apartment in a thriving neighborhood, an inviting, modern space with ample sunlight, warm rooms, and a community that welcomed families like his. When the day came for him and his family to move in, the atmosphere was charged with palpable emotion. His wife, eyes moist with gratitude, embraced Emily tightly, whispering thanks that conveyed years of unspoken struggles finally met with a compassionate answer. Even his son, whose fragile smile had long been overshadowed by his illness, seemed to beam with renewed hope as he ran around the new home, suspended in the genuine joy that only stability and comfort can bring. That moving day was punctuated by laughter, soft tears, and heartfelt thanks. Neighbors and friends gathered, and Michael's small family expressed their sincere gratitude to Emily, a gratitude so profound it resonated in every warm word and gentle gesture. Michael's voice quavered as he addressed her. "I never imagined that one act of kindness could create such a transformation. You've not only healed the cold of that night, but have brought brightness into our future. Thank you for giving us a new beginning." In the lingering glow of the day's end, as the family settled into their new home and the last of the moving boxes were carefully unpacked, Emily reflected on how life, with all its unpredictable twists, has a beautiful way of repaying genuine kindness. She softly reminded Michael, "This is how it sometimes happens when you selflessly help someone in need. In the future, it may happen that this person will repay you many times over." And with that, the winter of hardship melted into an enduring warmth, a testament that the smallest acts of compassion can indeed change lives in ways that exceed our wildest dreams. I hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a comment, sharing your thoughts about it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new and equally exciting stories. See you in the next video.